Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your own. Let's dive in. Welcome. I'm really excited about today's conversation because I'm chatting with a new friend of mine. So Ed, I met through my client, Roberta, who actually, funny enough, used to work in mortgage and does not anymore and has not since I met her. But I love how the real estate breadcrumbs always find me. But first, I want to take some time to introduce Ed. So Ed, do you want to say hi and tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yes, hello, welcome everyone. I'm excited to get to have this conversation with all of you. And I am a business coach helping out with the marketing side of things. So I work on the organic, meaning helping you make sense and also make it fun to actually market your business through social media, video, email. Yes, email is still alive and well. Being able to use those different multi-channels to get your message out there and make it simple. You know, it's all about just being able to just show up and deliver your greatness in as little as 15 minutes a day.
So cool. I love that. So the reason why Ed and I wanted to have this conversation was Roberta connected us and we both work with a lot of real estate agents. And guys, I promise you this conversation will be valuable even if you don't work in real estate, because
Yes,
organic social media marketing is organic social media marketing. But, you know, obviously I work on the energetic side. So when Ed and I were talking and he was like, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this, I'm like, we need to hit record. So, you know, we put this together and I'm always really transparent because documenting my journey is part of kind of how I market my business, which was when Ed and I put this on the calendar and planned for it, I had all these like big lofty goals on how I was going to market it. I made the cardinal mistake of not putting it on a to-do list. If it's not on a list, it doesn't get done in my world. Until I really started looking at my calendar for this week, I was like, shit. And I had this sinking feeling in my stomach and then instantly went into like blame and shame and da-da-da-da. And then, you know, an old version of me, I was telling Ed, I think we had about 15, 16 people register, which is still amazing. Like if, you know, like I'm not mad about those numbers at all, but I was just kind of kicking myself a little bit. And an old version of me would have just not done it, right? It would have been like, screw it, there's nobody, blah, blah, you know, whatever. And in this instance, I was like, no, this conversation is valuable with those of us that are here live, with those of us that are recorded. And I just wanted to talk through the energetics of that because I think we do that a lot, right? We're like, oh, well, I didn't do as good of a job as I wanted and all of that. And it's like, you know, everything is always working out for me, you know, always. And so there's a reason this was meant to be an like an intimate conversation. And again, we're still going to share this in other places. It just was really interesting to watch my brain go bananas. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys because I think that those are the parts and the pieces that most people don't talk about, where you're like, well, I meant to market that, you know, open house a little bit better, or I meant to, you know, market those services, but I just was living my life and running my business and oh shit. So I'm sure you see that all the time, Ed, with people who are like, I know I'm supposed to put content out. Like, what's the tactical piece of that? How do you approach that?
Well, you bring up such a great point, and this is why it's important for us to talk about this and why it's relevant to everyone, no matter what your business is, because not only is it about the marketing piece of it, but it's about your follow up and your follow through, right? So we made this commitment, we still showed up. When we made this plan, we did not know how many people would actually be interested in it and or sign up. So we already started at zero, right? And so by ending up showing up here and still running the show as if there was a million people here, we're still doing it. We're still committed and we're doing that follow through. So we want to make sure that we remind ourselves, because this is all training for our brain. It's like going to the gym, working out. Every little bit helps. And we're building that muscle. So if you're feeling a certain way in your business around things that maybe you should be doing in your marketing or are doing but not doing it enough or consistently, just know that awareness is key.
Sure.
And then pushing through to make sure that you still show up when you say you're going to show up. Of course, emergencies comes up, things like that. But like
For
us, we were like, no, we're still going to do it whether we have zero people sign up or we have 1 or 5 or 15 or 20. Like it doesn't matter. We're still going to be here for that part of it.
And one of the things I often say around that when it comes to numbers, Ed, is like, if there were 15 people sitting in my living room right now, I'd be stoked, right? Like that would be a great group of people to network with and have a conversation with and talk to. But when it comes to social media metrics, we're so hung up on, well, only two people liked my post, or only, only X, the infinite TikTok 222 followers. Like, I'm sure you run into that all
Yes,
the time with your clients. What's kind of your
absolutely.
that stuff?
Well, that's the big thing too. We have to go back to what is our goal and what are we able to control,
Mhm.
right? So you can only control so much in this situation. So for this, we'll say social media example, if your goal is to create brand awareness,
Mhm.
help make sure people know that you're a real estate agent or that you're a coach or whatever your business is,
Sure.
then you have to think about, okay, if that's my goal, where am I showing up? And chances are that's going to be in person at networking events
Sure.
and mixers and things like that. You have to physically go to those, which are great and part of your marketing channels that you should be tapping into. But then you're like, well, I don't have a whole lot of time. I'm more introverted. I don't want to be at these events all the time, whatever it may be. So then you look at okay, online. So now when we look at online, it's like, okay, well, social media is, love it or hate it, the place where people hang out. That's where people get their information. So now you need to make a conscious decision to show up. And then you think, well, I could post something, but when's the best time? When are all the people going to be on and see the one post that is the most amazing post ever because I spent so much time making sure it's perfect? And then you go through this whole spiral. Mind you, you haven't even created the post yet.
That's true too.
We haven't even talked about if it's an image or a video or a
Right.
caption or call to action. We haven't talked about any of that stuff. This is just the thought process. And then you're like, oh, but you know, TikTok hates me or Instagram hates me because it doesn't show my posts at more than like 200 people. So what's the point? And then, hours go by and all the things. So then we have to stop and say, okay, what's the goal? The goal is to be seen.
Sure.
Okay, where are you showing up? How often are you showing up? And also understand you cannot control these platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever you're showing up.
Sure.
So get rid of that excuse and just show up. If you're going to create the post and post it. If one person sees it, great. 50 million people see it, awesome. And I can tell you right now, if you're trying to go viral, one, that's not a goal. Two, even if you went viral, I can almost guarantee every single person watching this, you're not ready for capitalizing on that. We see this on Shark
I'm
Tank
not
all the
I'm
time.
not ready to go viral.
Right. We see this on Shark Tank all the time. We
Right?
see amazing businesses that go on there and all of a sudden their websites are hit with hundreds, if not thousands of people and they crash.
Right.
You lost the fame, right? So just know that going viral is not the goal here. The goal is for you to show up so
Yeah.
people can see you and understand what you do and to keep doing that on repeat.
And I think that I want to address the energetics. And guys, this is how this
Yeah.
conversation is going to go. I'm going to let Ed say things. And I'm like, let me tell you the energetics behind this. But one of the things that Ed said was something about whether you love or hate social media. I'm going to encourage you to teach yourself to love social media. And that might feel a little disingenuous at first, but just roll with me. Okay. I grew up selling radio advertising in Orlando, Florida. I started my career in 2005. I want you to know that I used to print directions from MapQuest and like drive to office parks and pull doors. Okay. Like that's how I started my career when I was 21 years old. We can now show up on social media from the comfort of our own home in our pajamas and do business. Like, if you're a business person, you have got to learn to love that. And so, like, then I talk so much about gratitude, Ed, and I'm sure you do as
Yeah.
well. I know you do.
Oh yeah, big time.
But with this, like, I'm so grateful that I don't have to print MapQuest directions and drive to office parks to get business anymore. And like, I think networking is still a really viable marketing or marketing strategy. It's just not for me anymore. I don't like, I want to be so intentional with my time that unless somebody I really know and trust invites me to a networking event, I will not go. And not to be an asshole, not because I'm too good, but because it's just like the energetics behind it, right? It's going to take me probably 30 minutes to get there, 30 minutes home, an hour and a half. Like, that's a really big investment of my time. And so I'm just really mindful of it. So one of my favorite thoughts to think is how much I love social media and how I'm so grateful that I have a tool to grow my business that makes it so easy to reach so many people. And I think this is so important because I haven't heard this in a long, long time, but I know with our real estate friends, I do hear a lot of the shoulds, right? Like, well, I know that I should be posting videos. And I'm like, I mean, it depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, is video a great way to grow your business? Of course. But if you hate doing it, it's never
Right.
going to go the way that you want it to, right?
Right.
My audience knows this, Ed. Like I went through a running phase. It was like a year and a half. I hate running. I
Ah.
ran for a year and a half because, there's a whole lot wrapped up in that, right? But it was like, well,
Sure.
this is the way to work out, and this is the way to burn the most calories, and this is the way to get fit. And I like the way runners' bodies look, and I'd like one of those. And so I'm going to torture myself into this thing when it was like, but Ryan, and it was actually my chiropractor who was like, Ryan, there's other ways to train, right? Like you
Wow.
don't have to run. And I was like, huh? I mean, I knew that
Right.
logically, but it, like in my mind, I was like, you're really telling me not to run? And he was like, well, you're in here once a week and your hips hurt and your knees hurt and like you're 28. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, good point. So I just bring that up for you because if you are somebody who is entertaining the idea of social media marketing, you have got to start training your brain to love social media because
Yeah.
doing something you hate in the name of a result always feels hard.
Absolutely. Well, and you brought up some really great points. I mean, one, that's why it's important to have a coach in your life, right? To be able to help support you, just like the doctor did, the chiropractor, because we hear it and we know it, but when we're one-on-one with somebody like that, it's a space that allows us to actually hear it and understand it and be like, "Oh, we got permission to not have to follow all of the gurus online that say that you have to do this, right? Also, the networking piece, not only was it the time that you mentioned, but the energy,
Right.
right? I don't personally like going to chamber events
Sure.
because it always feels like, for me, it
Sure.
feels like a lot of energy is drained because it's more of a come hang out, have some appetizers, and sip on some wine.
Right.
Okay, that's cool, but I want to do that with my close friends. I don't want to do that at a
With the
networking
strangers
event.
at the gym.
I want like speed networking,
Sure.
right? I want one-on-one, like just how we met,
Yeah.
one-on-one where it's effective and you
Yes.
get to know each other versus this awkward, hey, I see you guys are in a group. I want to jump in the group and say who I am and kind of meet, like it's just awkward. We've all been there. It's weird.
It really is. And so I want to talk about the shoulds. So the way that
Yes, yeah.
I handle this with my clients, and I want to hear how you handle this on the tactical side, is lead gen is necessary, but there are 800 different options. Find the one that you like to do. So if you like to go to events, like I know people, actually, Stephanie's on here live. Stephanie's a networking fool. She will have lunch with any stranger on the planet and enjoy it. God
Ooh.
bless you, my friend. Right? Like I won't. That's not, I'd like to eat lunch by myself and read my book while I do it. Thank you very much. So like that's just not for me. So how do you when somebody comes to you and says, okay, Ed, like marketing, visibility, leads, understand it, but I don't like video, I don't like social media, I don't like networking. I mean, not all three. If
Yeah,
the whole three, if I
of
say all
course.
three, like go get a job. But if it's just the one, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you advise, like on the more tactical business side? Again, for me on the energetics, it's like create a list, pick the ones that feel the best. Do you like what's your
Right.
approach to that?
Yeah, it's very similar. And in fact, I have actually had that conversation with some clients in the past in terms of going through that list and them not wanting to do any of them and having that real conversation that, well, maybe this is a transition time for you. Again, it's not the best thing that everyone wants to hear, but it's the real thing that we need to hear because, and it doesn't mean that they have to go out and get a new job, but they need time to think, burnt out. So it's important to know that part. But when it comes to the tactical side, oftentimes I am educating first the different channels that one should be having. There's the should, right? In their marketing wheelhouse, because just relying on one, for example, referrals, many businesses have, even to this day, have been built on referrals, which is great. And we love them. And it's the best marketing one could have. But it's not in our control. We don't
Yep.
control those referrals. And what I've seen in the last 6 months, mostly 12, but we'll say six, is that even those businesses that are well established that were built on word of mouth and referrals, they're struggling because they have not done any other visibility, proactive visibility pieces of their marketing. So what does that mean? That means they haven't chose to go to the networking events.
Yeah.
And when I say chose to go to the networking events, They might have gone to the network events, but they didn't go with intention.
Let's talk about that.
So let's talk about that for a second. So, and then we'll connect the dots for the other ones. But with networking, yes, you can go to all the networking groups, all the networking parties, events, whatever, pass out all your business cards. Great. But what's the strategy behind it? Because it's going to burn you out.
Yeah.
It's using your time. And at the end of the day, you should have a goal before you go into that event. So start thinking about if networking is on your list,
Mhm.
start thinking about what's the goal before you go.
Yep.
I want to meet 3 people in this industry who can connect me with XYZ. I'm bringing 10 business cards so that when you leave, you know how many cards you have left. Therefore, that was more intentional,
I like that.
right? It's very, very important to do that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, and the way that I align with that is for me, I'll take it one step further. And this is me
Yeah.
really playing in the energetics, is I will remove any intention for outcome and focus on connection, much like Ed said. Like, do you notice what Ed said? I want to meet 3 new people, right? Like, and really build 3 intentional relationships. That is a very different intention than an outcome. Because I think that's actually why most people get so strung out over social media and lead gen is we're always focused on the outcome instead of the intention. And
Yes.
if we focus on outcomes, guys, it's just like anything I ever talk about with energetics, there's always a gap, right? Like there's always going to be a gap from you in the outcome. So how do we get into alignment? We focus on intention, we focus on input, right? So the intention is I want to meet 3 new people today and really build relationships because my belief system is that when I build relationships, Lord knows what happens, right? Ed and I are here having this conversation with you all today. Like there's 4 million other ways that a relationship could go that isn't just Ed buys a house from me today or Roxy hires me as a coach today. And I think to me, that's the power of intention. And even when it comes to posting on social media, and we'll circle back to that. But when you go in thinking, I've got to go to this networking event and I've got to find a new lead, or I've got to find a new listing, or I've got to find a new client, or I've got to book a sales call, you go in from this deficit, you go in to get, and remember, you get what you put out. So if you go in with, I got to get something energy, what does that make you a man, like an energetic match to? Versus
Yes.
I'm going to go in and serve her. I'm just here for connection. Like my goal is to connect. And I trust that, like, I trust the energy, that the right people, like one of my favorite beliefs, everything is always working out for me. So I know I'm going to meet the right people. And that intention is so much more powerful. And then you walk away with the 3 connections or whatever your intention is, but it also feels good. You don't feel like you're trying to get something. And it takes it almost like lets you off the hook a little bit for like, got to get an outcome. And I find
Yeah.
that we're more effective in any form of marketing when we're not obsessed with the outcome. Not that we don't desire outcomes, it's the obsession with the outcome that winds up, I think, creating some chaos in how we show up and then judgment of how we show up and the shoulds and the have tos come up with that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, and that's why I always tell my clients, don't worry about the vanity metrics, the numbers, the
Yes.
followers. Listen, especially these days, nobody cares about followers. It doesn't even for the platforms, they don't care how many followers you have because they're not sending out your content directly to those followers. These days, they're actually sending out your content to more people who don't follow you but are
Right.
interested in what you have to say. So understand that like the vanity metrics, the followers, the loves, the shares, like yes, those are all nice and they can play a part, but when we're stressed out and trying to think about those outcomes and stuff, it doesn't do anything for us. It just continues to add that weight on our shoulders. So think back to what are you doing and how are you showing up? What's that intention? And how are you serving your audience? And also think about, so we talked about networking, right? And then these other pieces, just to tap into those real quick, we have the social media aspect,
Yep.
which again, that's something that as a business owner, it's important to have a presence. Pick your channels, and I say channels with a purpose. It's not just one channel. I know that you had mentioned earlier, like pick something that you like to do. And yes, that is part of the equation. Sometimes we have to also nudge for other things that maybe we don't like. So I'll give you all an example. A lot of my clients will come to me and they're very Instagram focused
Okay.
because they don't like Facebook.
Sure.
They, the business owner.
Right.
Then the problem that sets in is they're marketing only on Instagram. There's a couple problems with that. They're only marketing on Instagram, and yet they're upset because they're not reaching their audience.
Right.
9.5 times out of 10, their audience, while still on Instagram, are more active in paying attention to their types of services on Facebook. So you have to remember that, yes, go where it feels comfortable to start, but also know that, especially in this example, Facebook and Instagram, you're gonna have to be paying attention to both because oftentimes your audience, yes, they're on both, but they're paying attention to the channels differently. And most likely your audience is more active on Facebook. And if you're not paying attention to that, it's going to be really hard
Sure.
for that piece. Yeah.
No, and I like to me, I always say the idea of like versus dislike. Like why don't you like a platform, right? Because if it's like, well, I'm not good at it, that's a very different experience than I hate doing this. And
Mm.
so and it's the energy behind that. Because if it's like, well, good at, I'm not good at short, because let's talk about video, because it's a big one. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of people are like, I know how to create written content, right? Or I've used enough AI to know that I can voice record
Yeah.
stuff and put it on the internet. So, like I know how to use Canva, I'm good, but video, I should be on video. Everybody says it's video, 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 blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
There is a difference between learning to get comfortable in front of the camera because it's a desire that you have, it's something that you enjoy, it's something that you want to learn how to do, versus I am forcing myself to show up on camera because I believe this is the only way to get what I want. And
Yes.
those are two very different energies, right? Like, versus this is hard and uncomfortable because I'm new and I've never done this before, right? Like, duh, we're all beginners at some point, right? But
Absolutely.
that is not a reason to not do something. The reason we don't do something is I actually I spend like 2 hours psyching myself up to do this thing that I really hate, like running, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't figure out that I should run in the morning because I had less time to talk myself out of it, but I was young, and probably wasn't getting out of bed at 6 a.m. to go for a run. So I ran after work, and all day long I thought about how much I hated that run. And then I
Yeah.
did it and I still hated it. Sometimes I wonder how I survived to the age of almost 42. Like that, there's a big difference to me in the energetics of that, right? Is today's run's going to be really hard. I've never run hills before. I'm kind of nervous. I wonder how this is going to go. Like, I'm
Yeah.
going to show up and do my best. Is so different than dreading that run all day. It's the same thing with creating video. I'm willing to be shitty at creating video so I can get good at creating video is very different than I dread doing this. And the only reason I'm doing this is because somebody told me I had.
Yeah, it's such a mental challenge for all of us. I mean, you just described how it was for me when I started my business and how I started with video because I was the guy who was behind the camera. I didn't want to be in front of it. But I had a real talk with myself in my backyard and was like, if you want your business to survive, you have to get good at video. You don't have to be great, but you have to get good at it.
Yeah.
So either stay behind the camera and go
Mhm.
back to a 9 to 5, or get in front of the camera, say whatever you're going to say, and see what happens and have a business that survives. And that was back in 2015. So for me, that I had to have that hard conversation because as the marketer, as the online expert, I had to take the knowledge that I had and apply it to where I wanted to go. And so when you're thinking about as an agent, you're thinking about being on social media or any business owner,
Right.
you're thinking about being on social and creating these videos. I will say, giving yourself a real talk as to, again, what's the intention behind it? Why should you create videos? Like for yourself, because I can tell you all the reasons why, but you want to find it out for yourself because you're browsing your, let's say, Instagram feed. You're looking at other agents, you're seeing what they're posting. You're like, they're really good. My videos have to look like that. No, they don't.
Thank you.
A lot of it is the comparison paralysis, and we're constantly comparing. As an agent, especially, agents are comparing to agents. That's not your audience. You're not selling to an agent. Remember this. You are selling to the consumer, the person who's trying to buy or sell the home.
Yeah.
So try not to get too caught up. We're human, so of course we're going to compare. Set a timer,
I love that
get
idea.
in that thing and then get out, right? Be able to move on, but just understand that it's important for you to set that intention. Like, what's your goal? If you want to start showing up more online and you want to start being more visible, Should you be doing video? Absolutely. Video is key moving forward in business, especially no matter what platform you're looking at. All the data shows it. Again, if you don't feel it and you're not willing to test it, and again, there's baby steps that you can take to work up to it, then that's not going to be it for you right now.
I
And
love
so that's when you do that. Yeah, that's when you think about what can you do right now to
that.
help you with that. And for some of my clients, that's starting with email
Yeah.
or a blog post. And then we can bring that to life with the video format. So that was kind of like a long answer for that one.
I love that. And something that you said was really interesting, or kind of spurred this thought on the energetic side of it is most of the time when we think about, I really struggle to create video, most of the time that comes from self-judgment or fear of what other people will think, right?
Absolutely.
It's probably like, I'm just thinking, I was listening to you talk and I haven't thought, quite frankly, I haven't thought about the tactical side of it in a long time, Ed. And I was just like, that's really interesting because most people who are thinking, I don't want to show up on video are probably coming from a place of, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way my voice sounds. I don't, who's going to, what are people going to think? What are my friends or family? And like
Yeah.
all about this whole external validation thing. And so that's when you were saying, like, you need to have a talk with yourself. Like, and to me, it's the talk with yourself, like you said, like, are you going to learn, like, are you going to let the people who you went to high school with that you don't even fucking like keep you from making video to grow your business, right? Like, but that's so much of what that is for some people. I can't,
Oh, so
or
true.
one of the women on this call, I remember she was like, I'm so worried about talking about my business on social media because like these people I used to go to church with, or da 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 da. What are they going to think that this is the industry that I've chosen, and what are they going to think of me? And one of my favorite things to tell people when it's like, what are other people going to think? It's like if they don't pay your mortgage or live in your house, their opinion doesn't matter.
Yep.
Like, but it's like people we don't even like. What are they going to think of me? So I'm not going to do the thing. And so, like, I think so much of it is that too. If you're really that hell bent against, like, I hate the idea of this particular thing. And I'm going to tell you the difference because I told you, like, I don't network or I won't go to
Yeah.
networking events. But again, for me, it's from this energetic alignment, time and energy piece for me. But I also have other ways where business is coming into me, like that is not the thing. And I will. If somebody, like if Ed invited me to a networking event and said, hey, Rye, this is a great place for you, I would go
Yep.
because I like Ed. And I'm assuming that the people that, that we're going to, because we energetically match, that the people in the room are going to energetically match versus I'm going to go on Google and find this networking thing and cross my fingers that my people are in the room. Like to me, those are like, I know why I won't go to random networking events. That's not my thing. But if it's endorsed by somebody I know, like, and trust, and I like their energy, I will go. It's that same
Yeah.
thing with video. Why won't you create the video? And I love what
Right.
you said is give yourself permission to do it later. Like if it's not today,
Yes.
if you're not going to slay video today, like, but one of the things I have a good friend who's also a realtor, has a very large following on TikTok, Courtney Benson. We talk about her a lot here. But one of the things Courtney said is she takes her phone calls looking in the mirror. Like that's
Ooh,
how she got used to. She's like, that's why I think I never had a hard time recording myself because I knew what my face looked like already. Because I used to stand in front of the mirror and take phone calls and negotiate. And I don't know if it was like a skill that maybe her dad taught her. So because he was big into business, big negotiator, right?
sure.
Knowing the facial expressions on your face when you're talking. And so she's like, when I started recording video, it didn't appall her in that way because she was used to looking at her face, right? Like she knew the facial expressions. So even thinking of things like that, if you're like, okay, well, I'm going to work up to creating video. So I'm going to start with, again, taking my phone calls looking in the mirror, or I'm going to start creating videos that don't have my face. Or nowadays, guys, you can even create reels and TikToks without having to film yourself. Like you can create photo montages and different things like
Right.
that. It doesn't have to be talking head videos or those types of things, but working up to it, I really like that idea of like if it's a
Right.
not yet, I'm not there yet, I can't energetically get behind it. Well, what can you energetically get behind, right? Like it's like
Exactly.
talking to yourself in the mirror, hey, by December, so I'm going to start practicing, I'm going to start studying, I'm going to start thinking, like getting yourself ready. I think that's a really great idea.
Absolutely. Well, and that's why I developed this just show up theory, right?
Yeah.
If you just show up, and if you need a timer, 15 minutes. That's the golden rule, 15 minutes. If you can just show up for 15 minutes with whatever task, it doesn't have to be the video.
Yeah.
And if it is, for this example, let's just say it is. It doesn't mean that that 15 minutes is you literally recording and posting a video. If you're not there yet, maybe it's just holding your phone like this and looking at the phone. So I didn't even say adding the camera. right? Like that, oh, I saw myself. Like we didn't even go there. But those are the steps that I'm talking about. Like putting in those reps, figuring out what's the task and how can you break it down into the simplest form. And so give yourself 15 minutes. Remind yourself, just show up. Just
Yeah.
show up in front of the mirror. Just show up in the car. Just show up in your office. Find what works for you. And I will tell you that getting just used to holding your phone, because this is awkward unless you're a big FaceTimer.
Yeah.
Maybe not then, but most people don't do FaceTime. So just getting comfortable with this, being able to sit in your car and record video. Notice I didn't say post anything. I just said record.
Yeah.
There's these different things that you can start to do. When you show up to Zoom calls,
Mm.
what's the first thing that you normally do? Chances are you don't have your video on. Well, guess what? You can practice by turning on the video so that every time you go onto a Zoom call, your video is on. It helps you mentally prepare so that it becomes second nature, so that when you do have to be on video, whether it's your own or let's say you get an opportunity to speak to a group and you are on video, it's nothing. You're like, cool, what time? Where do I go? Where do I click? Let's do this.
So fun.
Huge energy shift. And I can tell you from both personal experience as well as clients that I've worked with, it is so empowering and it makes a huge difference in your business and in your personal life. So don't, discredit video yet. Just know that it's there. The yet is the key word there.
I love that. Thank you for that. Because, like I said, sometimes we, and the people in this community in particular, we're high achievers, right? We're like, we like to skip steps. And so, yeah, we're looking for like professionally curated videos where, like you said, even silly things like holding your phone are the place that you start. And giving yourself permission to be a beginner. Because again, when you are, good at something, even those of you that are successful in your businesses now and looking to just, increase your reach or increase your visibility, like becoming a beginner is hard, right? Like we really suck at it and we are super impatient with ourselves. So I love that idea of like, can you spend 15 minutes a day getting more comfortable, being visible, having those conversations, practicing in that way? And the reason why I love to shoot video in my car is the lighting is always really good. It gives you something else to do. Like I'm driving the car, So like I don't have to stare at the camera or make eye contact. It's also, I usually have my sunglasses on when I'm in the car. So you can't tell,
Yes.
And
And
so to me, it's just like, oh, if somebody was sitting in the car, like sitting in the seat next to me and asking me this question, this is how I would answer it. So also
ooh,
thinking through, like that's I mean, I don't have a hard time creating content. I never had. I used to teach classrooms of
yep.
adults. So it was never an issue for me, but that's how I think of that from the energetics, right? Like I'm not performing for the camera. I'm answering the person's question who is sitting next to me. And so if I were driving and Ed was in the front seat and we were having a conversation, how would I answer this? And so that way it's not like I don't have to perform and I don't have to overthink and I can just genuinely share from my heart. And then it appears really natural and it's easy for people to watch. So sometimes
So easy.
it's really about just showing up in like you said, just like you would more naturally and authentically. And I want to go there next because a
Yeah.
lot of people, like you said, they're like, all right, Ed, I'm ready. I'm gonna turn the camera on today. And all of a sudden I become a robot and I say and do weird shit that I would never say or do.
Yes. Okay. So while you may want a script,
So
because
don't,
everyone wants a script,
it's not allowed.
you don't need a script. If anything, your script is 3 bullet points.
Yes.
One topic, 3 bullet points. That's it.
Mm,
Because we don't want that robot sound. We don't want you to be reading word for word and hi, I messed up. I need to go back to the. We don't want all that. Like, we want it simple and we want you, your
yeah.
personality. Again, what you're putting out online should be very close to what we get in person. And
Yeah.
as a real estate agent, especially, listen, I get it. You have the 20-plus-year-old photo, on your business card. It looks great, and you haven't updated that thing. I get it. There's
Not
many
in this room.
reasons.
Nobody in this room is resonating with
Good.
anything right now. None of you are still using a headshot that's 10 years old. I love you. No, you're not. Keep going.
So the point being is that we want to make sure that just because you printed it doesn't mean that that's what people see in person or online, right? Like we want that genuine connection both through our content, whether video, photos, whatever, online as well as in person. Because here's the thing, if you are pretending to be this person online and do all the filters and all the changing of your appearance and whatever it may be, and then I meet you in person, there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
That disconnect is trust being broken
I was going to say it creates distrust immediately.
immediately. And it's going to be so hard to get that back. So remember, what's the intention? You're showing up for one person who's
Hmm.
your ideal client, who you love to connect with, who you love to educate and support. That one person is who you're showing up for, both online and in person. So really think through that and then make sure that you're just having that casual conversation. Don't think like you have to have this perfect setup with the perfect lighting. Great lighting does do wonders and it's really nice to make, so I will say that. But you don't need a fancy camera. You already have it. You don't need all these crazy things in the background. Like we said, your car is fine. People have made tons of money from recording in their bathroom videos and podcast episodes because that's the only room that they got peace for a
Right.
few minutes from the kids.
Right.
You know, there's just so much that you can do, and it's so acceptable these days. And in fact, we are in such a great time to embrace things like video because the more real and authentic you are, the better. And your videos actually will perform, I'll just say your content in general will
Sure.
perform much better than the highly produced ones that you probably spent a ton of time and money and energy on.
I am really leaning into that. It's so funny we're having this conversation. I posted something in my Facebook group earlier today about the idea of like professional and kind of breaking up with that. Like when
Mm.
I came into the online space in 2018, in my mind, somebody who had really great photos and was really curated, that like that meant they had their shit together. Like that was kind of what my brain correlated because I came from a corporate background, right? And like you could just kind of tell by the polish of a brand how much money they were making. And I made the mistake of making that correlation to the internet, and learned that that's actually not true. A, and that B, and like you also have to know who your ideal client is. Like in that season of life, the shiny things did attract me. Now, the shinier it is, the less I trust it. The shinier it is, the less I trust it. The shinier your car is, the more I'm like, do you drive that thing? Like
Right.
less real. If you show up to walk through the 20-acre property that I'm at in fucking heels because you think the price tag on the property, like turn around and get out, like leave, go, right? Like, to me, and I've been talking about that, like I don't want to because it's all part of performance. It's all part of programming. You got to show up a certain way. This is what a real estate agent looks like. This is what a coach looks like. This is what a corporate executive looks like. And again, if that's who you truly are and you like that, by all means, but you have to ask yourself the question, like, but why? And often the time it's because I want to control the narrative.
Yeah.
And you can, like Ed said, you can control the narrative all you want with a really polished look, but when you show up in person, if you look different and your energy is different than the person you show up on the internet, you're still not going to get the deal.
Yeah.
While you might book the sales call, you might get the opportunity, you might get the introduction, you might get the form fill on the website. But when you actually get into conversation with somebody, if you've shown up inauthentically in either place, the energy, like, and nobody consciously says that. Nobody's like, well, they just weren't the same as they were on the internet. They were like, hey, she just wasn't my girl. Or, he just wasn't my guy. Like, that's what they're going to say. They're not going to be like, the energy was off. Like, that's not what they're saying. Like, I'm going to give you an example. My parents are looking at property right now. And before they had, they went and just toured the new builds. And so the
Oh
guy,
yeah.
the in-house realtor winds up taking them, and the man just overloaded them with information, like so much information. My mom was like, I don't remember which floor plan was which,
Ooh.
and blah, blah, blah. And it was just such a turnoff to her. And she had an agent anyway. She wasn't looking for an agent, but like, it just was like, but what she felt like, what I felt when I met the guy was he's trying too fucking hard. What my mom said is he gave me too much information and it overwhelmed me. I didn't feel like he understood me. And what I felt energetically, because I feel energy more than my mom does, was he's trying too hard. He's trying to impress you.
Yeah.
And that's what you're feeling. So I just want to give you the example, like people aren't going to say you're trying too hard, right? I'm going to say that because it's what I do for a living. What my mom is going to say is it just was too much information and he was just, I felt really overwhelmed by the conversation. That's
Yeah.
what she said, right? What I'm telling you is you're trying. So that's the energy behind like that really showing up authentically in both places. So when people find you, like the F-bombs just kind of come out of my mouth naturally now, but I was very intentional in the beginning of my career back in 2018 and 2019 to make sure that I kept it in my language because I never wanted anybody to be surprised. Like to hire
Yeah.
me as a coach and then have me tell you you're fucking insane on a call. Not that I would say that in a rude way, but you know what I'm saying? Like
Right, right.
I say things and I don't ever want anybody to be like, "Oh, wasn't expecting that. That's offensive." So to me, I'm like, I'm gonna offend you before you buy anything from me.
Right. Well, and that's what we want though, right? Like
Yes.
it's kind of crazy, but that's what we want, and that's why power video is so powerful and why it's important for us to lean into it. Again, I'm always going to meet people where they are, but I'm
Sure.
also going to bring them to video in some way, shape, or form. But that was such a great example that you shared with us that I want to tack onto that. One, it's the video piece there where we can add video is what that agent could have done was a video summary to
Sure.
send to your mom later, right? Like
Totally.
again, hopefully he was, I mean, in this case, it didn't sound like he was, but you got to read the room. What are they looking at? How are they looking? You know, in this case, they're in person. How are they looking? Did you share too much? Did you think that you shared too much? Like, whatever it might be, maybe do a recap afterwards.
Yeah.
And then in that email or text, send a video.
Yeah. That's a
One of
great.
my favorite things that agents can do when you're meeting with someone, especially in this market right now, like this market is crazy and you do have to actually work and then some because of the way it is in most markets. So, one thing that you can do that's so easy of a lift for you, you can literally, after you're done with your client, or maybe they're checking out the upstairs, grab your phone, record a video. Ideally, we would see you in it if possible, even for a quick second. Like, hey, Samantha, it's Ed. This is that kitchen that you thought was really good for the home cooked meals for Sunday's dinner. Just wanted to put this as your reminder. And then guess what? At the end of the day, after everyone's gone and said and done, send that text with
Yeah.
that video. Because chances are Samantha went and saw a few different properties,
Mhm.
whether it's with you and or somebody else.
Yeah.
That it's overwhelming. I can tell you recently, I just toured, I think there was, it was two in one day, and I was overwhelmed.
Right.
And I was like, wait, which house had what? And did we like that or did we not? So it's one of those things that even the little, what you think might be the littlest thing or the most, nobody's going to care, do it.
I love
Because
that.
that's the thing that's going to make a difference. And now you've touched them again.
Mhm.
And you also now, like, they can see you and they remember, oh, that's the kitchen. Do I really like that kitchen? Because that was the kitchen I thought was good.
Yeah. That's
It's
great.
just little things like that that you can start to do. And with those types of videos, again, that's not something you're posting on social. So if you're worried about being publicly, on stage, like we talked about with the different feels and all that, work up to it. Send videos in your texts and your emails.
Sure.
It makes a huge difference.
A great idea. Or videos to people you met networking. Like, hey Ed, we met last week at the chamber. So fun to meet you. That I haven't thought of stuff like this in years. This is so fun. I love these things.
Yes.
So one of the things you talked about comparison, I'm looking at our notes because I'm like,
Yeah.
we both will go rogue if you let us. I want to go back to comparison and um not just the authentic piece because we've covered that, right? Like we've talked about authenticity, but also comparison comes from a place of assuming what that person is doing is working. Like I
Yes.
told you, the assumption I made in the online space is if somebody's branding was polished and their photos were professional and it was pretty, I assumed they knew what they were talking about,
Yeah.
right? I very quickly learned that, yeah, no, for 5 grand, anybody will build you a brand and a great photo shoot and you'll look amazing and you don't have to know a damn thing about what you're doing to put that out onto the internet, right? You
Yeah.
can hire all the people to create the illusion of a brand that knows what they're doing. I didn't know that. I
Right.
was a little naive at the time. I didn't know shit about entrepreneurship and didn't really occur to me that somebody would go through that effort, but that to be true. So I think that that's such an important thing to think about as well as we're like, oh, well, everybody's posting, just sold or just
Oh my
closed,
gosh.
big
Yes.
fucking key. So it must be working. And what you don't know is that since I have a lot of real estate agents I'm connected to on my feed, it makes me cringe. Like it's just
Yeah.
gross. No, thank you. Sorry, not sorry. But that's something I think we do is we compare ourselves to other people and how they're marketing their business or how they're showing up with
Yeah.
the assumption that that person it's working, it's doing
Right.
enough for them, and we don't even know
Exactly. Exactly. And you bring up such a great point. So the just solds, the just listed, and then I will go off on the client testimonial in a second. But those ones, fine. Those are staples. If you want to keep them in your, routine, great. But let's step it up. Again, throw in some video, bring that thing to life. Talk about the story behind what happened. Because you're not trying to sell to other agents. You're
Yes.
trying to sell to consumers. So when you put a just sold, just listed, sure that in a consumer's mind they might be like, okay, so they must be good because they did that. But it's not really what they're thinking about. They're thinking about the house, the location, the
Right.
neighborhood, what happened in that sale, what challenges maybe came up, what questions did that new homeowner ask the agent that I'm not even thinking of, that
Right.
I should be, right? There's all these types of things, and you don't have to do all of it, but put something in there to mix it up. So maybe, for example, this is just coming to me, so bear with me, but you have
Sure.
your just sold at your normal image and then it's a carousel on Instagram that goes to the video that talks about a 30-second story behind the sold. And then you talk about the reason why this sold, believe it or not, was because it had a fire pit in the backyard next to the pool and hot tub. A
Right.
fire pit anybody can get, and you can add to any home. But because they had it in the right location at this home, that's what sold it. Boom. You're like, what? A fire pit? Like, that's what sold this home?
Yeah.
It it creates that curiosity, brings up that conversation. Remember, social media used to be join the conversation at Facebook or Twitter back in the day. So again, you're either creating the conversation or you're joining it. And so start thinking about how you can switch things up with those just listed, just sold. Like with the just listed, okay, great. You have all the details in there, whatever. But what's something unique about the property or
Sure.
the location, the neighborhood, right?
Right.
Bring that into the story, even if it is quirky. Like I had one agent that I worked with where she amazing personality and she would toward this old, I'll say like 50s kitchen and had the stove and it was like, look at this quirky old stove and it's got the timer, like it doesn't work but it's great, like it was part of the story and it's part of the home, and it gets you in there. So just think about how can you add more story to what you're putting out there. And for the, well, I should say, are you ready for the big one for the client testimonial, or did you want to talk about anything about those two
Let's
parts?
hear it, Ed.
Okay, so no shame if anybody's doing this, because again, we're all here to learn. Nobody cares about client testimonial or client review as the headline on that big Canva photo graphic that you put on Instagram. Nobody cares. They're
Mhm.
not even probably reading what came after that. Instead, what I want you to do is replace that client testimonial headline with something that pops, something that came out of that review that they gave you. Maybe they said best realtor in San Francisco, best first time homebuyer guide, whatever it may be. Like, because maybe you didn't sell them the house yet. Who knows? Whatever that review is, read it and see if there's something that you can pull out from that. Or
Sure.
maybe a follow-up conversation with them to find what that headline is. But let's get something a little bit more punchy, a little bit more curiosity or flashy,
Sure.
because we need to break that pattern up.
So true. And like I said, I think it's one of those things we just make the assumption of, oh, this is working for people, so we do it. And again, you just wind up looking like everybody else, and that's not what people are looking for. And I think, but I also want to talk about the power of one. We've talked about this a couple times, so I want to come back to it. We have a tendency when we're using social media or even when we're networking of thinking big numbers, right? Like
Oh yeah.
I need to reach a whole bunch of people, or I need to have a really big audience, or there needs to be 100 people in the room if I'm going to go to that event, right? And we think of that. But I want to talk about the power of one. So again, a lot of the reason why I'm even having a conversation with you about real estate agents is because of Courtney Benson, who Ed, I've shared your story. You guys all know Courtney's story. The power of one relationship, one woman who found me on TikTok and just changed the trajectory of my business 2 degrees to talking to an audience of people that I wasn't talking to. that now 60% of my business comes from that sector. And then what y'all know about real estate agents is you guys are excellent referrers. So now my amazing clients are referring me their friends and family, and my business is growing in that way through one relationship. Through one relationship. And through that, like I'm going on a cruise in January to speak at an event because of that one relationship. And so we have a tendency to, step over little piles of money looking for big piles of money, right? Where it's like we want to step over that one person or that one conversation or that one new follower or that one friend request or that one LinkedIn connection request, when it's
Yeah.
like you never know when you're going to meet a Courtney Benson, or you never know when you're going to meet that one client who's like, oh yeah, such and such just happened and my husband just inherited, all this property. Like you have no idea when you're going to find that life-changing opportunity or something that just, changes your degrees just a few. So for me, I've really been working on this for both myself and my clients, Ed, of like the celebration of
Oh,
one introduction, one conversation, one hand shook, because we're so, like, especially on social, where people are like, I have 10,000 followers. I'm like, I don't give a shit how many followers do you have,
right.
how many clients do you have, and how much money do you have in the bank? That means nothing to me. Because then there's also the people with millions of followers and no engagement, right? That's cool that there's 1.2 million people following you, but you have 6 likes. I have
Right.
1,000 followers and I get 40 likes.
Yeah.
So, and again, none of it has anything to do with number of clients, money in the bank. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that because we just get so hung up again in being a beginner and what are people going to think? I don't have very many followers. I don't get very much engagement. But one relationship, one conversation can completely alter the entire trajectory of your career, your business. You have no idea. And we
Absolutely.
forget that sometimes when we start chasing the vanity metrics and that.
Yeah. Well, and that's why it comes back to just showing up, right? That's all you can control is how you show up, where you show up, when you show up. That's all you can control. And when you do that, you open the doors to opportunities. And
Mhm.
those opportunities are that one, meeting that one person. Because the thing is, like, especially with agents too, and again, I work with a lot of my clients on getting them on video and then getting those videos out there, right? So one video can land you a new client. It's the easiest thing for people to share to help them get to know, like, and trust you as the expert who should buy or sell their home. Like, so understand that that can trump any kind of copy that you send for people in an email or a text. So understand that that's where we're going with that whole video push, and to just understand that yes, it starts with one. I encounter this a lot with email marketing because I most of my clients will come to me for social. So we
Sure.
start talking about social and video, but then I like to come from a holistic approach. So it's like, okay, well, where's the email list? Well, about that, I only have a few people on there, or I don't really do anything with one, or I don't have one. Or maybe in one case, you're getting it from your broker and they're sending out just a templated, one that you send to everyone on your list. Whatever the case may be, understand that it starts with one subscriber in that list. You're still going to do it. And when I get people that say, oh, I don't have that many people on my list, they have like 100 or more, or even
Right.
50 or 25. I'm like, as long as you have one, even if it starts with your mom, like,
Great.
no shame. Like, my mom was still on my email list, right? Like,
Great.
it all starts with one. But again, it's what can you control?
Yeah.
How are you showing up? When are you showing up? Make that your routine because you will attract people.
Mhm.
I can tell you right now, when I send my weekly email, which is crazy, I send one weekly, yes. And it's every Friday at 10 a.m. Is that statistically the best time to send an email? I was going to say share, to send an email? No. Statistically, it's usually Tuesdays and Wednesdays. However, I dreaded email. I knew it was good, but I dreaded it. I set a schedule for myself. I made sure that it worked with my schedule and I trained my audience.
Mhm.
So now they're expecting an email every Friday at 10 a.m. And when they don't get one, they reach out and say, are you okay?
Love that so much.
Because they know.
Right.
So the same thing can happen for your social media posts, your videos, whatever it may be. You just have to be consistent. and others will be attracted as well as repelled. We were talking about that earlier. Not everyone is going to like us, and that's okay.
Mhm.
And also, we want them to be repelled from us because we don't want to work with somebody who is not into us and who's always going to be a problem. Because one, that's going to be an energy drain, but two, you're also going to be saying no to a lot more potential clients that would be a better fit for you.
Yeah. I think that we have such a hard time with that. Like, we're not like, you don't like everybody.
Yeah,
Why do you expect everybody to like you? And why do you expect to try to be some like, to me, quite frankly, sorry, not sorry, but if you're trying to make everybody like you, you're boring. Like the
right.
only way to not offend somebody is to be boring.
Yeah,
And that's not it either. But we have this weird thing with like must be liked. But like you don't like everybody and it's not a problem. Like there are
right,
people on the internet that I don't like and it's not a problem. I don't think they're bad people. I don't think they're going to hell. I don't think that they're out to hurt people. They're just not my people. But for some reason, we're like, people, like, some days I giggle because, like, I lose more followers on Instagram than I gain. And, like,
yeah, oh, yeah,
I'm like, well, I don't know, I must have said something to offend somebody today. And it used to be a problem. But to me now, again, my belief system, everything is always working out for me. So that person wasn't supposed to be here, right? Like I talk a lot about space, Ed. That's a big thing. Like we have to create space. We have to make space to
absolutely.
like let things come into us. So sometimes when a follower unsubscribes or something like that, to me, it's like it's just making space. I
Yes,
only want people here who want to be here. I only want people here who are moved by, interested in the conversation because it does me no good to again say that I have a shit ton of followers or subscribers who don't care.
right.
So I email my list every day, Ed, Monday through Friday. And I average a 30 to 40% open rate.
Isn't
And
that,
people, I mean, it's a damn good number. And
yeah,
people that subscribe every day. Every day. I lose at least one. And I don't care at all. Because do you know why? Because a 40% open rate on that email list is more reach than any one single social media post
oh gosh, yeah,
day. So these are
yep,
people who asked for me to talk to them, who open my stuff every day, and it's still my biggest reach. People are like, again, sorry. Sometimes every now and again, marketing Ryan comes out. Some of you might not have
yeah.
seen a version of me, but but I'm
But
like, oh, we're gonna keep sending the fucking email, and if you don't like it, you gotta go. Sorry, not
yeah,
sorry. And I get it. Some people will just unsubscribe because it's like, well, just cleaning up my inbox and I don't, whatever. And some they don't like it. Some say it's too many. And I'm like, if Old Navy can email me 4 times a day, I can email you once a day. And my emails are good. Theirs are
yeah.
not.
And that's the thing. We have to remember, and that's why I always like to throw in the email marketing piece and also push people to get that going because it is so important. Because most clients will say, well, I don't want to bug people. I don't want to send too many emails, so maybe I'll send one once a month. I'm like, I mean, if that's where you want to start, that's fine. But I will say, and for some that does work, but for others, that's too much time. Think about what happens in a day, let alone a week. And now you're pushing out a month and you still want to get clients. So, like that's again, it goes back to your goals. So if you're like cool with your client load and you're just wanting to have something that's more casual and keeps them on in your world or you in their world, once a month, great, no problem. But if you're like, Ed, I need clients. I need to make sure that I am popping up in their inbox frequently. Once a month's not going to cut it. Like you need to do more. Doesn't mean you have to do every day, but again, at least once a week, you're popping in and sharing some value.
Yeah.
And for agents, I know it probably sounds like repeat and it's probably boring, but market update.
Yeah.
It works. It helps you. I will tell you, there is somebody on TikTok, I can't think of her name in the moment. She is so good with her mortgage updates. She gives about the rates,
Yeah.
and it's just her sitting there super casual most of the time, looking up at the rates, talking to you. And I don't need to buy a house that's already checked off the list. Like we're already done, but I still watch it almost every day
Right.
because I'm curious about the interest rates and
Right.
I'm curious about her perspective because she's educating about the rates, even if they're still the same.
Totally.
So do that with your listings, do that with your market. If you're not in real estate and you're doing something else, pick something and give an update.
Yeah.
Even if it's to say there are no changes, but I
Yeah.
wanted to come on here anyway. It's building that muscle, and that's going to help you in your communication when you're one on one with somebody and you need to follow up, which we know is a whole nother ball game for most people and not following up.
It's interesting. My pretense on following up has changed a lot over the
Yeah.
years. I used to be a really avid follower upper, and I don't as much anymore. But I think it's because of the nature of the work that I do, right? Like I think if I were selling real estate or if I were in a more tactical or B2B style business, I probably would follow up more because I
Yeah.
think in the B2B world, it's more like I just move fast. The work that I do is just deeply personal. And so like I don't do as much follow up as I used to, but I think that again, that's a feeling into, right?
Yes.
For me, it was a feeling into like, oh, this doesn't feel like it used to when I was, selling content marketing solutions when I was running an agency, right? Where it was like, hey, I only have room for 3 more clients. Do you want one? Yes or no, right? Like that was a very tactical reason to follow up, right? When I'm selling events, I will do that because I'm like, listen, if I'm hosting a retreat, there's only 4 spots available. So you have to tell me if you want yours. But like when I just have coaching conversations or like sales calls with people, I ask them to follow up with me within 48 hours. And if they don't, I won't. I won't.
Ooh.
And it just because, again, a belief that I hold that my clients are ready to do the work. And so if you're not following up, like if we agreed that, like, hey, today's Friday, will you just let me know by Tuesday what you think is the best move forward for you? And then if I don't hear from them, I'm like, okay, they're not ready to do the work. Not in judgment, not in like,
Right.
you suck, but in a, okay, cool. I'm not going to go chase you down. And so I also
Yeah.
think that and again, it's probably the nature of the work that I do. It's very different, but feeling into how does follow up look, I think is important, right? Like, is it a personalized follow up? Is it a templated follow up? Is it a market update follow up? But like, what are those
Yeah.
points? And feeling into what feels good to you. Because again, I used to be a very one size fits all kind of girl, Ed, and now I've learned that it just feels different now. So,
Yeah.
the people who you've actually met and have relationships with, like that might be a different type of contact versus again, somebody who randomly hopped on your email list because of this ABC XYZ. So, how do you help your clients kind of figure that out? Like, what's the communication based on? Is the audience warm? Is the audience cold? Is the audience
Yeah.
old? Is the audience new? Like, or do you have it? Yeah, I'll stop.
Follow-up situation in general, because especially in real estate, there's some tips. I say tips, but I don't agree with them. Where there's like saying, you're usually not seeing a big conversion until you hit follow-up number 5 or 6.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh, 5 or 6, like that just to me seems daunting. Not because I can't do it, but for me, I'm like, if you really want to change and you really want to do the work, we should be doing that at 2 or 3 follow-up, not at 5 or 6. Like
Sure.
to me, that's lazy. You've ghosted me, you're done, you moved on. Like, why
Yeah.
am I trying to babysit? Like that's
Yes.
not my job, right? So for me, I'm more of the, hey, I know things happen and get busy, so I'll follow up 2, maybe 3 times, depending on what happens. Because stuff happens, life happens, emails, get buried, whatever. But it really does depend on the business and what you're doing and how you're going about it. What I have found is that a lot of my clients don't have any system in place to
Sure.
even make that first or second follow up. So a lot of it is being able to set those boundaries, have a system in place that works for you. And I'm also going to push people past the spreadsheet. Sure, a spreadsheet, fine. If that's where you need to start, that's great. But I'm going to push you past that because you really want to look into something as simple as a project management tool. I say simple, it can be very complex. So bear with me on that one, but it can be
Yeah.
very simple. But have something that is more alive and easier for you to manage than a spreadsheet because it's not going to cut it if you want to be effective with what you're doing. No offense if anybody is effective with their spreadsheet, just saying, but I'm all about making tools and systems easier for you to grow your business and run it sustainably. So it's really important to have that. And you mentioned templates.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like anytime you are repeating yourself more than 2 or 3 times, start catching that and make a template. Not just for follow up, but for anything that you're doing. Make a template for that because it's going to help you energetically as well. You're going to have less time spent and brain calories burned
Yep.
um, on trying to figure out what to say because you already have it somewhere. So put in a document that you're going to easily find.
I do that all the time. Like we have the Facebook group and if people don't fill out all the questions, I don't let them in. So but I decline with feedback.
Oh,
And
perfect.
those things, the first couple of times I typed it up and I'm like, Ryan, what are you doing? And I opened the notes up on my phone that says, hey, thanks so much for your request to join the group. We'd love to have you. Our request is that you just fill out all those questions and we'll get you admitted as soon as possible. Thanks so much. Boom. So now every time I go in to do that, I can go into my notes, copy, paste, boom, boom, boom. Right. When I
Yes.
post my videos to social media, I usually will put something on that, like if it's a promo podcast, like if it's a short form clip of the podcast, right? Like when Ed and I will cut this up and we'll turn it into the pod and it'll be really fun. And I'll cut this up and I say, listen to the full podcast. Well, again, that's already saved in my notes. If
Right.
it's just my standard, follow along for more, download this. I have those all saved in notes. And so then I can just copy and paste. I don't have to think of what to say. So I
Yes.
do stuff like that all the time. If
Absolutely.
it's, a quick standard follow-up for ABC, XYZ, just anything that you're doing. Cause like you said, it's the energetics of having to think, what did I say to that last person?
Right.
Right. And then you think too much.
Yes.
It takes energy and it winds up, then you get caught up in an errant thought, right? Like the less random shit you can think about, the more focused you can be.
Oh,
So I
absolutely.
think that that's important.
It's huge. And you brought up a great point too with the notes piece. So I'm sure Android has this too, but I'm an iPhone person. So in general, you can take your process one step further and instead of copy paste from the notes, depending on how formatted it
Sure.
is, you can have a text keyboard shortcut. So
Oh yeah.
you could just put in a couple letters or numbers or whatever for those who don't know on your keyboard, and then boop, your whatever your template was automatically shows up and then you just hit send, right? So it's all about being able to work smarter in your business and catching yourself when you are doing something more than two or three times over and over and over for that piece of it, because it just makes it so much easier. And I love that you brought up the Facebook group. Just to tack onto that for a second, is that you have a Facebook group. I've had a Facebook group in the past, but I don't have one currently. And so when we think about the marketing tactics that we were talking about and
Yeah.
different strategies that you can go about, Facebook group is one. And
Yeah.
that is something that, again, one person can do. I'm currently not doing it. I know the power of a Facebook group and I know how great it is. But for me, I haven't wanted to, and it can always change, but for me, I'm come from the teaching side of things and I really want to make sure that I'm using an environment for that's off of social media when I'm doing the work that I'm doing. Not to say Facebook groups are bad, they're very good and very easy for people, and you can get a lot of traction going. But for me personally, I just haven't gotten into that again. I
Yeah.
haven't been in that space, created that space, like you were saying,
Yeah.
to do that. And that's okay. That
I,
doesn't mean
I didn't
one is right or wrong.
I didn't want to. It was intuitive. I had a Facebook group of 7,000 people in the first iteration of my business and closed it down back in 22, all the things. And the Facebook group came through. I was looking for a space to like share more, like longer form content. And so it was actually
Yeah.
a blog I was toying around with, Ed, because I was like, there's just so much coming out of me. But again, then we've got to format it and set it up, and then you need the images, and it just felt like more work that I just wanted to be
Yes.
able to and share and, all the things. And so I couldn't come up with something. And then I wanted a place where I could go live and whatever. So finally, it was just one of those, like, just create a Facebook group. And I thought it, because again, I thought it was going to be Circle or Telegram or somewhere,
Yes.
Patreon or
Right.
something. But then I was like, then it's just an added login. And I don't
Yep.
like added login. So why am I going to ask my clients to go find or my
Right.
audience? And so it was somewhat of an intuitive nudge. And I think we've been open for about a month. There's 78 people in there, which I'm stoked about. But again, it was the power of one, because there was a
Yes.
part of me, the more egoic part of me that would have been so embarrassed in my little baby Facebook group of only 78 people, where I'm like, no, I love that place. And because I love it, because I'm doing it for me as much as I'm doing it for them. And when we do things, because again, I like expressing myself that way. So it just feels good. And I do
Yeah.
that intentionally. So sometimes too, we don't, and I know that sounds weird because you're like, isn't it always for our clients? We're like, yes. And my business is about self-expression. It's about authenticity. It's about showing up, as are all of our businesses, in case you're wondering. So
Right.
it's a safe space to do that, where I have to let you in, right? So right now, I love that it's this little baby cocoon where I can, share things that I don't yet feel comfortable sharing. Because remember, guys, I'm in a period of transition too. Like I've only really been in this transformational coaching space for about 6 months now. And So like I still feel a little weird sometimes when I used to talk about all the stuff Ed talks about. Now I'm like, fuck all of that, just do whatever you want, right? Like, and somewhere in the middle, I know.
Yes.
All of that to say, like, I'm loving it. So it's also just that approach that you take. It's the power, like there's 78 people in a month that give a shit enough to take the added step. And again, those are not including all the people I rejected because they didn't fill out the questions. But again, it's always about the very first thing we kind of like grabbed onto in this conversation is intention. What
Yes.
is intention? What are you trying to accomplish? How does it serve you? How does it serve the audience? And then, you come up with wild things like, I'm going to start a Facebook group over in 2025.
Well, I love that you brought that up. Watch, I'll probably open a new Facebook group here in the next 6 months. But I love that you bring that up because as you were talking, I'm like, you know what? Feel like I probably, if I had to think through the process of why if I haven't done it again, I think I was putting too much pressure on the group and what it would entail and putting all the things into the group versus what we've been talking about is break it down. If you want to have a Facebook group, great. What's the one thing for the one person
Yeah.
you can do to just get started? And it could be something as simple as I'm talking to you guys, but I'm also talking to myself. Remember, it's yes and where it's one of those things where it's like I could literally have once a week posts that helps me and the audience just show up and start there and
Right.
then watch it grow.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas before I was coming in with like, oh, I want to have this whole system in process. I want to post 3 times a day, like 3 times a week, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, whoa, that's too much added work. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So we just played that out in real time. So hopefully that was helpful for those of you who are thinking through the different, whether it's Facebook group or email or social or video, whatever it might be. Hopefully that helped because we all go through it and we do have to talk it out. And it's helpful when you have experts in the room.
I could talk to you forever. You have wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful energy. But while we wrap up, guys, I'm going to have Ed tell us where we can find him, spend more time with him. Any of you that are here live, first of all, thanks for hanging out. If there's anything specific you want us to expand on, go ahead and drop that in the comments. But in the meantime, Ed, where can people spend more time with you, learn from you, hang out with you on the internet?
Absolutely. So if you just go to my website, edtroxell.com, you'll see that I have a free visibility guide on there. So just download that because that will help you for the DIY portion of things. And then you'll be able to get my weekly tips and tricks to help you with that piece of it. And then you'll learn about where you can find me on social and on all the channels. So just edtroxell.com and grab that free just show up visibility guide to help you with your marketing in 15 minutes a day.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you, Ed. This was really fun. I'd love to know, and again, those of you that are here live, give us your feedback. If you guys are watching this or listening to this on the podcast, let us know if you like this format, because this is how I love to like have conversations. So this kind of, again, where we're teaching and talking and learning all at the same time. And I just think that's the way my brain works. And I think it's just more organic way to show up. So if you guys like this format, I would love to continue to bring in experts like Ed or people who are, again, tactical and then take the energetic and tactical side of things. I think that's kind of fun and different. So give us your feedback on that. Ed, thanks for sharing your magic. Guys, go follow Ed, learn from him, download his guide, and we'll see y'all next time. Thanks so much, Ed.
Thank you. Take care,
Bye, guys.
everyone.
Take care. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that that's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours. And your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.